Welcome to Geek Rant. Hey everyone, welcome to Geek Rant. It's Greg here again on the channel with Toby, and today we're going to be talking about the new DCU movie, Superman Legacy. There was some announcements recently, and an image was released of Superman.
A new image instead of a trailer. There was meant to be a trailer, but they
Yeah.
just put this image up, which is kind of like it's like a moving wallpaper for your computer, isn't it?
Yes. And it's an image of, you can see it, Superman sitting there with Kryto, the Superdog.
Yeah,
Um, which I think that's one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about this, wasn't it? We were a little
yeah,
bit surprised. I was kind of expecting that to be something that was a bit more of a cartoony sort of character that might come up in future. I was seeing some of the previous images, and we there were some set images of Superman walking
yeah,
around. You saw him with some of the other
yeah.
characters.
No
Um,
dog involved in any of those.
yeah, there was a few of Mr. Terrific,
Yeah,
who's played by Eddie Gathergy. There was a couple of the engineer, Maria Gabriela de Faria. I'm not aware of her work, so new actress. But it was all looking pretty, all right, Superman, yeah, some images, his new
yeah,
costume. Then we saw this
pretty
image,
solid.
didn't we, about
Yeah,
him sitting there looking down on the Earth, is it? I presume it's Earth, yeah.
yeah. On the
And
moon, it looks
from
like.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a weird position because we got this image, but I was confused and hoping that the director James Gunn wasn't going to be harking back to his Guardians of the Galaxy type
I
approach to
know,
things.
I know.
I think that there's because he did the Guardians of the Galaxy, they're very successful, lots of humor,
Yeah,
but featured small animals
yeah,
and kind of odd looking CGI type creatures like
yes.
Groot and all that. And I kind of was hoping that side of things wouldn't be so drawn into this Superman, but I think this is almost like a clear statement that there is going to be that part of it to this
I think that's what
film.
that's what's concerned me because Guardians of the Galaxy is a very different kind of property, a different franchise.
Hmm.
It worked really well for that because, like you say, there were a lot of unusual characters, a lot of aliens and space sort of, and it suited itself to be a comedy, didn't it? Whereas as Superman, I don't want it to become Guardians of the Galaxy sort of
No,
style.
it's very much
Um,
based on the Earth, isn't it?
it
Based around
is,
the
it
Earth with a bit of
is,
Krypton thrown in there, maybe,
yeah.
But and thing about Krypto is he has superpowers.
I know.
So a dog with superpowers, as you said earlier, is very much like a cartoon based
Yeah,
thing. I feel it kind of
absolutely. These
it's
things can
almost like
work all
comedy.
right. They can work all right in a comic book or on
Yeah,
a cartoon.
yeah.
But something where it's interacting with real life, real people, I don't know how they're going to pull that off.
No, and
Um,
another thing as well with the title Superman Legacy.
hmm,
That for me is saying we are going to respect previous
yeah,
Superman films.
yeah,
And this Krypto appearing is jarring for me. It jars against what
yes,
I've already understood that this new Superman film is about.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, how does that work? And
Yes,
I just,
it's supposed to be very much about his early years as he's kind of trying to make sense of being a Kryptonian living on Earth.
yeah, which is
I know that's
fantastic.
a very general theme from a lot of the other films, especially like Man of Steel. That was very much the case, wasn't it? He was
Mm.
quite a. I think that's where I was hoping it would be a little bit less dark than the Man of Steel. Man of Steel was quite dark in
Oh,
places,
very dark and
and
sort of,
yeah, and had some slightly some tone to it that I thought this is just a bit too dark for Superman.
yeah.
He's
No, I
like,
tend to agree.
yeah, he's like kind of the hero that everybody kind of looks up to. He's the one
Mm.
that sort of sets he's the probably the most powerful, isn't he?
Yeah,
And so
definitely.
if he wanted to do whatever he wanted, he can. But he's always kind of respected human law and human life, and trying to be good in his essence, you know. And I that's why that some of the Man of Steel things. I mean, there's a bit where he kills old thingy at the end of the film, and I was a bit concerned with that, but. I'm just hoping this hasn't gone to the opposite direction and it's gone to in turning into like a comedy film or
Yeah, well, I hope not.
something
I
a bit
mean,
stupid, you
if
know?
we, I mean, David Corenswet, he's seems like a good
Yeah,
figure. He looks
yeah,
quite like Christopher Reeve in a way, maybe not as
yeah.
tall and imposing. You know, he's a bit gangly in parts, so they're saying he
He's got
got
a good sort
ripped.
of wide jaw.
Yeah,
He's quite a good looking guy. I think he will play the part all right. I'm
he's got good
quietly
pedigree as well when it
confident.
comes to his acting. So, you know,
Yeah,
looking at him, I was quite happy
yeah.
that they picked someone who's not like a main
And I was
star.
actually really happy that they chose Rachel Brosnahan for Lois Lane. I think
Yeah,
that was a really good cast as well.
definitely,
I'm
definitely,
really pleased with those two as the leads. Um,
absolutely.
I think the
They're
one
quite
that
young as well, which is
they
nice.
are, yeah. I think the one that sort of I'm a little bit uncertain of is Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. You know, that one has sort of surprised me a little bit. I'm
He's
not,
played some strange roles in his time, and
yeah.
he does play character parts, doesn't he? He was like he's in that TV show about Alexander the Great. Is it Alexander? No, not Alexander the Great. The Russian
Oh, I haven't
leader.
seen that one.
Yeah, yeah, and
Right.
he. You should watch some of that. He is like a spoiled rich toff acting really stupid,
Yeah.
and that's what I see him doing.
Yeah,
And
I see him as do you remember the old Fury Road? Mad Max
yeah,
Fury Road.
yeah,
He
yeah,
plays a kind of snivelly
yeah,
character
yeah.
in that, and
He does those roles quite a lot,
he
and
does.
Lex is kind of has a commanding confidence
Yeah.
that is that you know we've all kind of
That's my
seen.
concern. I'm not
Yeah.
sure he might be able to portray that to give off that, like you say, master villain, you know,
Mm,
commanding confidence. Yeah, that
mm.
concerns me a little bit.
They've got Millie Alcock as Supergirl.
I
I
know,
don't know
yeah.
what sort of part or how long she's in the film for. I haven't seen any pictures,
No.
but I think that would she's a star
She is
rising.
good. She was really good, wasn't she, in the House
Yeah,
of the Dragon?
yeah,
Um,
and so that's a very interesting bit of casting.
yeah,
So you know,
yeah, that's
interesting.
good. But then
Yeah,
I think it seems like there's a whole multitude of other characters as well, and
yeah,
you know,
not holding back, are they?
they've got Hawkgirl, Metamorpho, the Engineer. There's some Green Lantern in it. I think
Yeah,
that's Nathan Fillion playing Guy Gardner. You
yeah,
know, this again is another area of concern for me. Um, I like I like to have a bit of other characters come into it, but I
mm.
just didn't want it to be that Superman is kind of a little bit of he's not the he's not in it all the time. Do you know what I mean?
He's not the main man in a sense. He's
Yeah,
kind of
unless these are
he's
just going to be
overshadowed by
very
things.
yeah, or these are just going to be very cameo-y, very close snippets at the end, or like you say, how much is Supergirl going to be in it?
Yeah,
Um, I sort of think we don't want to overload it. This is the first film, proper decent film for Superman in a while.
yeah.
Don't want to overload it with too many characters and make it too gimmicky with
Mm.
dogs and and things like that.
Guardians of the Galaxy senses of
Yeah,
humor. I don't think it would necessarily work. It needs to be straighter with a subtle humor that, you know, the original film, Christopher Reeve, you know, his bumbling humor was so charming. I mean, you
yes, it
know,
wasn't like yeah, it there was a little bit of humor, wasn't there, in that,
yeah,
and that was his way of playing a disguise, so that you didn't
yeah,
think you thought he was ultimately bumbling. This guy could never be Superman, you know,
yeah,
and that worked. He did it,
it
and like you
did.
say, it was charming, wasn't it? He played it in a very charming way.
Yeah,
Very
and nobody cared, did they? That
no.
you could tell it was obviously Superman because his chiseled
Yeah.
looks couldn't be hidden behind just a pair of glasses, for God's sake.
I know.
Nobody cared. I think there's been with this new
Yeah.
film with Legacy. I think that they're trying harder to disguise
Yeah.
this new Superman because they've given him this really big, fluffy kind of
Yeah.
fringe
Yeah. Yeah.
full of curls. I think it's something that the kids do at school these days.
Oh, is it?
I think it's like a phase thing.
Right.
But I mean, they've changed that look around his face. It was obviously more of an aim to disguise him.
Yes.
And people.
It's just one of the unwritten rules, isn't it, of Superman?
Yeah.
No one can work out from just looking at him. Actually, if you just put that face next to that face, they're actually
Clearly he's Superman.
identical. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Clearly he's a chiseled sportsman, who can he's Superman. So I think that people find it harder to suspend their disbelief these days. There's a critical eye on things.
Yeah.
And I think that approach might not be as contemporary as it was back then.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? I think people are
absolutely.
less likely to believe that type of thing today,
Hmm.
because everybody's desensitized. And back then, you kind of just believed in the magic of cinema.
Yes.
Back in the late 70s, and going into the 80s, the greatest era of cinema. And I think that this today is inevitably going to drag some of today's ideas and concepts into it. But
Yeah,
I wasn't impressed with this quiff. I thought it was terrible. I think we're all going to be like looking at this fringe the whole flipping time.
Yeah, it's really tricky, isn't it? Because they obviously touch these things up in, editing and post-production. I wondered about his suit a little bit, the actual Superman suit.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest point of discussion, isn't it? That's come
Yeah,
out so far.
yeah. I'm actually glad that they kind of brought back the red trunks side of things.
Definitely.
I liked the majority of Henry Cavill's outfits. But it didn't look right without the red sort of pants on it. It just
what it looked like to me? It looked like he was wearing dark snake skin bondage gear.
Yeah.
It looked like something you'd wear in a dungeon.
Yes.
I was not impressed with it. It almost looked like Aquaman's clothing.
Yes, a little bit. Yeah, I agree with you. It was a bit
scaly
sort of
nature.
wetsuity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit. And I'm glad the blue is a bit more of a lighter, more prominent
Vivid.
blue, a nice red cape, with the symbol on it. Not
Clearly
sure about
points.
not sure about the symbol at the moment.
I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you.
It's not quite S shape enough.
No.
And I know there's this. They've got to make it different somehow, haven't they? It can't
They're drawing
just
upon
be...
different comics when they do some of these designs.
Yeah.
So there's a comic design, I think maybe the 90s, where they had that design logo, and there's other little bits they've drawn in, to the design. So it's a homage to a range of different sources, Superman sources. But I think predominantly it riffs on the Christopher Reeve costume, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it does. It again has got a bit of a texture to it. I've looked at the sort of a couple of photos, and it's quite textured, and it's also got a lot of sort of padded panels or whatever.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was a slight bit baggy in places.
I thought it was as well.
Is that good or bad? I don't know.
I
everything's been so blooming skin tight and muscular, whereas
it doesn't look very. It looks like it's a bit awkward to move in. There's a kind of like it folds a bit, and I mean, for a Man of Steel, I don't think it's like
when you see him sitting in that. Do you know that other picture that they released a few months back where he's sitting in that chair and putting his boots on, and
it looks like it's got a gut, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks a bit. And again, I know it's kind of. I mean, you would say that the suit in that picture does look a bit darker, but that might just be because it's indoors in a dark room.
Yeah.
But I do like the classic old color of the suit. The Christopher Reeve suit was like a stocking on him, didn't it? Basically.
Yeah.
But I want somewhere in between those two in some respects.
I agree.
And maybe we grow to like this one. It's new. It's slightly different. they
I'm never
can't.
going to like the lines of techno panels. It makes it look
Yeah,
like a biker jacket to me, and I think
it
that
does a bit.
a lot of them, I think they've character design throughout all the characters in the show. So all of them are wearing very similar costumes, even the girls. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
so.
yeah.
I don't think it's. I think this is a design fashion that they've gone with,
Hmm.
and the heroes in this film are all going to be decked out in this kind of leather type
Yeah,
gear.
yeah, yeah,
That's just the aesthetic they're going with, and
yeah.
I hope they can carry it off. I mean, the other superheroes look like they're kind of Mr. Terrific looks like he's wearing a jacket. I mean, he wear his character in the comic wears a jacket with some slogan on it, doesn't it?
Logos. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
know.
okay, but it's going to be interesting to see, say, what Supergirl looks like,
Yes.
or
Yeah. Will hers mirror
Hawkgirl looks like
Superman?
Superman in this. I think it was a similar sorts of
Right.
costume. So,
Right.
it's a weird one. I'm pleased that they went with the color, and I'm pleased they went with the red
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm kind of curious as to how this costume will function. It's clearly based in Metropolis
Yeah.
because there are you can see the film that they've got some of the characters from the newspaper
Yeah.
offices
Yeah.
and the Daily Planet.
Yeah.
So they're all coming out and looking bewildered from some sort of attack in a sequence of photographs. So it's going to be interesting, and clearly superhumans are part of
Yes.
society,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
accepted. Whereas in Superman, the 1978 film,
Yes.
there's no other
No.
superhumans there, are there?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And only the villains from Krypton
Yes.
have
Any
appeared
superpowers? Yeah. Yeah.
and have
Exactly.
superpowers because
Yeah.
they get the powers when they come close to the planet.
But that was the good thing about Lex Luthor, wasn't it? He was a human,
Yeah,
a mastermind villain, who was up against Superman.
yeah,
Luckily he's got his kryptonite weakness, so as a man you can sometimes go against him. But do you want to do that every time? It's a difficult one.
there's a shot where Superman gets captured.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
I think, yeah,
Yeah,
Ultraman
but
or
I
Kryptoman or
wonder if
something like that.
that's him being his noble Superman
Yeah, I'm
side
not
of
fighting
things
back.
and not fighting back, and
Yeah,
because he could,
yeah,
couldn't he? He could do whatever he liked, really.
yeah,
And sometimes that's part of the problem for me with Superman is he is so powerful, you
yeah.
know. There's not a lot unless you use the kryptonite. There's not really many ways you can stop him or beat him.
Mm.
And that would be nice to have a fresh approach to someone somehow incapacitating him in some other way, maybe
Yeah.
psychologically or um you
By
know
his loved ones. Yeah.
yeah, do you know
Yeah,
what I
there is
mean?
I think that's going to play a part in this, to be honest, as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they haven't really released any of the storyline
No,
yet.
no,
They're keeping it all
it's
very
quite
close to
under
hand. It's
wraps,
only
isn't it?
these guys with these super photo lenses that
Yeah.
have managed to get pictures
get,
while
get a
they're doing
few
the
on
filming.
the yeah,
Yeah, they
exactly,
probably make a lot of
exactly.
money from those photographs, I'd imagine.
And to be honest, it's not out until the 11th of July, 2025. So
Yeah,
it's still a good amount of time for them to gear it up, get some good trailers together, and start to pump out some info and start whetting your appetites.
build up the DCU because
Yeah,
that's ever expanding, isn't it, as well?
it is. I mean, they're doing a chapter one, a bit like phase one, I suppose, of like Marvel, and they've called this chapter one Gods and Monsters. And there's actually quite an array of programs and films and things that are coming out. So, they've got these Creature Commandos, which is like an animated series that's coming
Hmm.
out. There's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, something called The Authority, which I think is it's a bit like a
Agency.
Suicide Squad
Okay,
type
right.
thing, a group
Hmm.
of superheroes that have to fight at
Hmm.
all costs.
Hmm.
Then there's going to be Batman, Brave and the Bold, which is
Yeah.
be interesting. I think that's actually going to have a Robin character in it this time, but I think it's going to be his son. There's Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing makes me make me laugh, doesn't it? Because I keep thinking back to that really cheesy old
Oh
film.
my God, that was fantastic. I love that film. It
But I
was something
mean,
scary about that film.
yeah, it was a bit odd, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I never thought it was like a DC thing. Do you know what I mean? I always thought it was just a weird
Oh yeah,
horror type
yeah.
film.
But the mastermind is his villain or something like that.
Right, right.
There's a yeah, there's I think it's interesting. I think what we're seeing is DC is perhaps riding on the wave of Marvel's failures.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of there in the background, maybe lurking and being darker. I think they're taking a darker approach. And I think what we may well see is Marvel may well try and actually start to copy some of the things that DC's doing. You know,
Maybe.
and I think that we may well see them maybe move away from these kind of glossy type shows to something that is more characterful and darker. Like
Maybe.
we talked a bit
Maybe.
about this with the Penguin.
I know what you're saying, but it feels to me like DC are actually copying what Marvel did originally. You know, Phase One, and trying to sort of recapitalize on that kind of approach to it.
On that concept, yeah.
I mean, James Gunn is a good director. I just concerned he's going to bring too much of a slightly odd or comedy, or he's a bit had a slight weird tinge to him, hasn't he? You know, he's had a
Which
few
can often bring out the best
characters.
results. So let's hope that it does.
Yeah,
You know?
he played well in Guardians, and I think his Suicide Squad was a lot better than the previous one.
Definitely.
But something needs to happen for DC because they've, other than the Batman and some of the other films haven't been great, have they? No. Batman versus Superman wasn't brilliant.
Oh yeah, I mean that's like the past now.
Man of Steel, I know that's all gone, and
yeah, that's gone.
I know a lot of people go on about Henry Cavill and that he should be playing Superman again. I don't agree with that. I think this is new. It's a different thing. Move on. That's gone now. The old Snyderverse type of thing.
Yeah,
I think that
Henry Cavill is a good character actor, but he carries too much stuff with him.
Yeah.
When you look at him, you see The Witcher, you see Superman, you see all sorts of different characters.
Yeah.
I think to having Corenswet as the new Superman, I think is a really good move.
It is. He's totally fresh-faced for it, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's not got any connotations of being any other heroes or any other sort of characters like that. And now he can now make this his role and take it forward. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a good call. Yeah. Good.
So I think it's largely prose, isn't it?
Yes. From
other
what
than
the
seen,
dog thing. Other than
the dog thing was disturbing, to say the least. I don't know what was going on with that and where that will go. No. Whether that's a joke, some kind of, because James Gunn's sense of humor might well be playing.
I'm just hoping it's a one-off, like the dog just appears and then he's gone.
Yeah,
just can't seriously be in it like a superhero.
And it embraces the history of Superman, referring to cartoons, the animated series, and referring to the 1978 film, which is fantastic. So there's some good stuff going on there. So I'm excited to see this film. It's going to be good.
Yeah. I am too. I just. Sometimes when you see something, you're a little bit like, "Oh no, God, please don't ruin it. Make it good." It was looking all right from the few bits we saw. Don't ruin it from here. Okay, well, thanks for joining us today. If you like what we're saying, obviously like the videos and don't forget to subscribe. And we'll see you again soon.